There are three main types of loops that we're going to be looking at in this lesson, and these are ways to iterate through the code. So we're going to take what we've learned in the earlier lessons where assign a value, take a condition, and then have an increment on that value in order to break that condition. And one of the most common ways is to do a for loop. So let's set our default value of x, assigning a value of x of 0. And we want to have a condition, so this is separated with the semicolon, that we want to continue to loop through while x is less than 5, and we need a way out of the loop, so we need to increment x by at least something, so we're going to increment it by 1 in order to get a way out of the loop and eventually break this condition. So let's output into the console whatever the value of x is, and see what the output looks like within the web browser. So we start out with a value of x of 0, and we increment it all the way to 4, and then once it reaches 4, the next iteration is no longer less than 5, and that's where the for loop stops running and executing the code, the block of code between the curly brackets. So that's one way to do a loop. There's also a while loop. So idea is similar, where we're setting a value that's our initial value, and then we've got while, and then the condition to check to see while it's looping, and then this is the block of code that we want to run while we do a loop. So we'll output whatever the value of y is, and then we also need a way out, so we need to increment y by 1. So let's see what that looks like. And the exact same thing, starts at 0, ends at 4, and this is the while loop here. And then lastly, we also want to do a do while loop. So this one has similar idea of while, but we're going to loop through, and we're going to do this while it's less than a certain value. So let's update this and set z to 0, and using the do while loop, and that's the block of code within the curly brackets, we're going to console log whatever the value of z is, and then we need a way out, so we need to increment that value. And then lastly, we've got our condition that we want to loop while z is less than 5. So this is going to be what we're going to be outputting and how many times we're going to loop through, and we can see the results are the same. So there is a big difference, well, there is a slight difference to these, and if I go in, if I update these to value of 10, so starting value of 10, we only have one that actually runs, and that's the code from line number 12, and that corresponds to the do loop, the do while loop. So because we've got the condition afterwards, this will always run through at least one time. So if you need at least one iteration of your code to run, then you could use a do while loop. Otherwise, select either the while or the for loop, whatever matches best with the coding solution that you're creating in your application.